A new report claims the U.S. plans to build a massive military base near Gaza, potentially housing thousands of international troops. Now, Washington is pushing back on the report, but not entirely. We'll look at what's really behind the story and why the Pentagon's denial leaves plenty of wiggle room for America's next move in the region. The Israeli media is reporting that the U.S. plans to build a major military base near the Gaza border. The story was first published by an investigative outlet called Shomrim and then picked up by Ynet. The reporting claims that Washington has agreed to fund and construct a new facility in southern Israel that would be used to house several thousand international troops tasked with enforcing the Gaza ceasefire. According to the report, the base would sit just a few miles from the Gaza Strip, cost roughly $500 million, and operate under an international mandate to maintain stability inside the Gaza Strip. Israeli sources quoted by Shomrim describe the facility as part of a broader plan to, quote, anchor international forces in the region, a sort of forward operating hub, if you will, for a peacekeeping mission meant to prevent Hamas or other armed groups from establishing control or reestablishing control in Hamas's case. That's the claim anyway. But U.S. officials are pushing back on the report. Central Command, which oversees all American military operations in the Middle East, issued a statement calling the Israeli reports, quote, inaccurate. CENTCOM said flatly, quote, no U.S. troops will be deployed into Gaza. In other words, according to Washington, there are no current plans for an American base on the Gaza border, at least not one involving U.S. personnel. Still, that denial does leave room for interpretation. CENTCOM's language focuses narrowly on what the U.S. military itself will do. It doesn't rule out the possibility of the U.S. funding or helping construct facilities that could be used by other nations or by an international stabilization force. Nor does it rule out a base on Israeli soil outside Gaza proper. And that distinction matters. As we've been discussing here on the PDB, under the terms of the current ceasefire, there's growing talk, both in Jerusalem and Washington, of deploying an international peacekeeping force to oversee reconstruction and security inside Gaza. The Trump administration has reportedly discussed models ranging from a UN-authorized mission to a coalition led by Arab states, such as Egypt or Jordan, backed by Western logistics and funding. If such a force does materialize, it would need infrastructure, of course. Housing, command centers, medical facilities, maintenance depots, all of which could be built in Israel and supported by the U.S. without technically contradicting CENTCOM's statement. In fact, there's already precedent. The U.S. military currently operates the Civil Military Coordination Center in the Israeli city of Kiryat Gat, about 20 miles from Gaza. That site hosts around 200 American personnel who coordinate humanitarian deliveries and regional logistics. Expanding that footprint, or establishing a new, larger version closer to the border, could serve as a staging ground for any future mission. So, while CENTCOM's denial shuts down talk of American boots in Gaza, it doesn't necessarily close the door on American-built bases near Gaza. Still, both Washington and Jerusalem appear to be treading carefully. For the U.S., the optics of a new Middle East base, especially one tied to Gaza, could be politically explosive. For Israel, the presence of a large international force operating from within its territory raises questions about sovereignty and control along one of its most sensitive borders. It's also unclear who exactly would staff this proposed mission. Most U.S. allies in Europe have shown little appetite for sending troops into post-war Gaza. Arab states have also expressed reluctance, saying they won't send peacekeepers unless there's a clear political framework that includes a pathway to Palestinian statehood. So for now, the base remains an unconfirmed idea caught between competing narratives. Israeli outlets describing an ambitious U.S.-backed project meant to anchor a future peacekeeping force, and U.S. officials insisting that no such plan exists, at least not in the form being reported. That leaves one final possibility, that the base isn't a plan so much as a proposal, floated quietly in back-channel talks as part of the post-war planning process, then surfacing prematurely in the Israeli press. Either way, the story does show how complicated this ceasefire really is. Behind the public denials and press leaks, Washington and Jerusalem are clearly gaming out what comes next and how to prevent Gaza from sliding back into chaos. Oh, and did I mention that there's still no indication from Hamas that they intend to disarm or to give up a governing role in Gaza? So, yes, that could also be considered a sticking point. All right, coming up after the break, Ukraine's wartime government faces a growing scandal. Investigators are targeting senior officials and one of President Zelensky's former associates. I'll be right back. Hey, Mike Baker here with an important message that could help your personal finances. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, the folks at Debt Relief Advocates are notifying consumers of debt relief that's now available and is now designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program may only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. Look, it's not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that, frankly, credit card companies would rather you not know about. It could end your debt troubles and save you a lot of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living continues to increase. To learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, simply go online and visit DRA.com. Again, DRA.com. Once again, that's DRA.com. Hey, Mike Baker here. Well, not to scare you, but the holidays will be here before you know it. And for many families, that means excitement, of course, but also a little stress. Look, between gifts and travel and higher prices in general, it is easy to feel overwhelmed, especially if you're already relying on credit cards to cover the basics. So if that debt is piling up, well, you're not alone. Now, if you're a homeowner, you may have already considered reaching out to our friends over at American Financing, but maybe you hesitated because you don't want to give up your low mortgage rate. Well, that's why American Financing created what they call the Smart Equity Loan. It's a simple, smart way to get your finances back on track without giving up your low mortgage rate. Unlike a HELOC, which can fluctuate with the market, the Smart Equity Loan offers a fixed rate, so you'll have one predictable monthly payment. It lets you use your home's equity to pay off high-interest debt, free up your cash flow, and still keep your existing mortgage intact. There are no upfront fees. So to find out if you qualify, just call 866-885-1881. That number again, 866-885-1881. Or just visit americanfinancing.net/PDB. Welcome back to the Afternoon Bulletin. Ukraine, of course, is no stranger to corruption, but this time it's different. A $100 million kickback scheme inside the country's energy sector has rocked the government, exploding into one of its biggest wartime scandals since Russia's invasion, reaching uncomfortably close to President Zelenskyy. It began with raids across Kyiv this week. Anti-corruption agents from Ukraine's National Anti-Corruption Bureau, and you ask yourself, does that have an acronym? And you are right, it does. That would be known as NABU, knocking on doors tied to the country's most powerful ministries. What those agents say is that they've uncovered a vast web of inflated contracts and phantom construction projects inside Ukraine's state nuclear company. Prosecutors allege energy officials and contractors were skimming millions from projects meant to fortify the nation's power grid against Russian strikes, the very infrastructure keeping the country functioning as targeted drone and missile attacks from Russia intensify. For a nation living by candlelight for hours or even days at a time in some regions, that discovery of the potential scandal struck a nerve. It wasn't just about stolen money. It's about stolen defenses, siphoned from a system that can't afford another weak link. According to NABU, confirmed by ABC News, 5 people have been detained so far, with 7 others named as suspects, among them a former deputy prime minister and a one-time advisor to the energy minister. But at the center of it all is a businessman, Timur Mindich, a media mogul and former co-owner of Zelenskyy's production company, which the president founded during his acting career and which he later gave up upon entering politics. When agents arrived at Mindich's home Monday, he was gone. Ukrainian media says he fled the country before the raid, fueling speculation that he'd been tipped off. The FBI is now reportedly investigating his overseas financial activities. Prosecutors told a Kyiv court that Mindich texted Zelenskyy just minutes before the president spoke with former Energy Minister Herman Galushenko, inquiring about the scandal, a call they allege Mindich was trying to sway. Galushenko, now Ukraine's justice minister, has also been pulled into the scandal. The government confirmed he was suspended this week after investigators searched his home. In a Facebook post, he backed the decision, writing that the suspension was, quote, a civilized and correct scenario, and vowed to defend himself in, quote, the legal arena. So far, prosecutors have not accused Zelenskyy of any wrongdoing, but the optics are dangerous. Mindich wasn't just an oligarch. He was an old friend and former business partner. Anti-corruption activists say Zelenskyy can't afford to look like he's protecting allies. It's a shaky moment for the Ukrainian president. Just months ago, he tried to bring Ukraine's anti-corruption agencies under closer government control, a move that triggered street protests and drew rebukes from European allies, forcing him to back down. Now those same agencies are leading this investigation. Zelenskyy addressed the controversy head-on in his nightly video message on Monday, saying, quote, everyone who has built corrupt schemes must face a clear procedural response. There must be convictions, end quote. The timing, though, couldn't be worse. Like I mentioned, Ukraine's power grid is under siege from Russian attacks, leaving cities in rolling blackouts. And Zelenskyy has been pleading for billions in Western aid to rebuild the nation's grid and strengthen defenses. But those appeals now risk being drowned out by headlines of graft and corruption. And the ripple effects may not stop there. The episode could reopen old wounds with President Trump, whose allies have long accused Zelenskyy of turning a blind eye to corruption. And that, my friends, is the PDB Afternoon Bulletin for Wednesday, the 12th of November. Now, if you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me at pdb@thefirsttv.com. And, of course, to listen to the show ad-free, it's very simple. Just become a premium member of the President's Daily Brief by visiting pdbpremium.com. I'm Mike Baker, and I'll be back tomorrow. Until then, stay informed, stay safe, stay cool. Hey, Mike Baker here. Now, let me take just a moment to talk about health, right? Nothing more important. And specifically, let's talk about maintaining your health as you get older. It's the old aging talk. Look, you and I know this. Getting older does sneak up on you, right? Stiff joints after workouts, maybe your hair's thinning out, changes in a variety of ways. And that's why I'm genuinely pumped to tell you about Bubs Naturals collagen peptides. Look, as you age, your body makes less collagen. It's just a fact. And that's a problem, because collagen is the glue that holds everything together. Bubs helps restore it, giving you stronger joints, healthier hair, better nails, and quicker recovery. I mix mine into my morning coffee. It's tasteless. It dissolves straight away. It's really no fuss, no muss. As they say, it's easy peasy. I don't know who says that. I think I just did. And here's something important. Bubs is also a tribute to Navy SEAL hero Glenn "Bub" Doherty. And you probably know his story. Glenn died saving lives in Benghazi. They donate 10% of profits to his foundation and to other important charities. Now, another great thing about Bubs Naturals, they use pure ingredients, grass-fed, no sugars or fillers, third-party tested, NSF certified for sport, Whole30 approved. Look, it's trusted by over 100,000 folks, even named the best collagen of 2024 by Health.com. And they have killer electrolytes and MCT creamer, again, all clean ingredients. Live better longer. For a limited time only, our PDB listeners are getting 20% off at Bubs Naturals by using code PDB at checkout. Just head over to bubsnaturals.com and use code PDB, and you're all set. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Tell them the PDB sent you.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment, a really positive, nice, and kind comment. That would be appreciated. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our daily updates.